Good evening. Welcome to the Diamonds Academy. All right. Hope you're having a good weekend, or whenever you're catching this on the replay. I hope things are good with you. I was having a conversation with a client of mine, and he's experimenting with taking authority and domination in the bedroom. And he was asking me, like, how does that extend? Like, how do you do what you do? And just living this 24/7 dynamic with a woman. And it's one of those things that I take for granted, because it's like one of those things that just comes naturally, and I've really thought about, what is it that I'm doing, that produces this sort of effect. So I had to, just sit down and think about it for a little bit, because just when it's natural to you, you don't really break shit down. But that's why I love my students, because they say that when you teach, you learn twice. So that's one of the things. Hey, Uncle Guns, thanks for posting my links. I appreciate you, man. What's up, Money Mitch? Yeah, so we're going to be talking a little bit about, how to bring that same sort of energy that you use in the bedroom, right? Maybe there's some spanking going on, hair pulling, choking, slapping, commanding words, manhandling her, just enjoying being in a full-on decisive mindset and behavior. And how to take that and bring it into the outside world. One second, guys. All right. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking a little about today. Yeah. Yep. How to bring that shit up. Because the thing is that, we know from various sources, myself, other people, women love that feeling. They love the feeling. They love the feeling of this over here. Fucking hey, what the hell? Over here. They love being on her knees. God, I fucked that up. Looking up at her man, pleasantly happy, waiting for instruction. And it's not the thing that she's doing that's important, right? Imagine the feeling that's inside that needs to occur in order for her to do this, or any number of different things. And that is what needs to be cultivated. That's what you cultivate to turn this into a 24/7 thing. And that's the deal. And part of it has to do with believing, or even knowing that you can, right? Because a lot of guys think, well, I can't do that, right? Because in the bedroom, you could just pass it off like you're just playing, right? That you're just playing a game, and you're wearing a costume. It's a persona that you've got on. And this, when you come out of the bedroom, it's sort of like shines a light on you and said, like, all right, well, here you are. What you want it. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to extend yourself into reality? How are you going to push your will forward? And that's where all of your fears will start bubbling up. All that shit that you think you don't have, it'll come out. You just try it. And you'll be faced with, you think you're a cool guy, you think you're grounded or whatever. Try telling your woman what to do and see how you feel about it. Notice, like, pay attention to your internal emotional reactions, and the truth will be revealed to you. Shout out to Lucario. The truth is always inside you. It's right there waiting to speak to you. But you need to do certain things to engage yourself such that you can have that conversation, so it can start talking to you. And then you should be brave enough to listen. Because if you notice, whether it's fear or discomfort or feeling good or proud or whatever, it doesn't matter what the feeling is. But the fact that you're able to notice it in the first place, that is a very good thing. Right? Instead of pushing it away, shoving it aside, not listening, sticking your fingers in your ears, basically. But that's where the truth is. The truth lies in these realms. So yeah, try giving your woman a command, and with complete certainty, with calm authority, and see how you do. So there's like some sections, like, how to break this. I was thinking about, like, how to break this up, and how to really bring yourself, that dominant authority in the bedroom, how to bring that out. And there's a few areas. So of course there's like some foundational stuff. And then there's some psychological levers that you can pull. And there's conditioning tools. And then there's the synthesis of these things kind of coming together. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I had some friends watch my stuff and said, when you break things down into steps or groups or things of that nature, it's a lot easier to digest. And I get that. The problem is that manhood, leadership, domination, influence, these things, they are not linear. That's the problem. They're not linear. It's not like when you're going to school and you go to Psych 101 and you pass that, and then you can go to Psych 102 and then 103 and then 201, 202, 203. It doesn't work that way. So while steps are good for kind of laying things out, so you have a structure in which to talk about things, that's not exactly how the learning goes, right? But we'll jump into it regardless. So part of the foundation is having frame consistency. Okay. So, some people get hung up on this word, and really frame is just the way in which you look at the world, the way in which you see yourself. That's all it is. It's perspective. That's all it is. But it's perspective that you hold on to. That's not just some sort of perspective that you're trying out, seeing how it goes, like that sort of shit. That's not frame, right? You might also characterize it like worldview. Okay. So the whole notion of like frame consistency is that it does not bend. The frame consistency doesn't bend. Your word is final, and there's no backtracking. So, one of the greatest lessons in life that I've heard was life is just making choices and not looking back. And that's kind of how you have to go about this as far as like frame consistency. You choose, you speak or act, and then that's it. Once the action happens, the past, it just vanishes. It's done. And you accept that it's done. You accept your own choices. So part of this is being able to trust yourself. If you have self-doubt, it's going to be very, very difficult to have frame consistency. You're not going to be able to stand on your square and hold yourself up. Excuse me. So get used to the idea of when you decide something that that it's never going to change. Like, you said it and it's carved in stone now. And whatever happens, however the cards may fall, that is what it is. And you'll just have to adapt if it's not, coming out the way you would like it to. And that happens sometimes. And you have to be okay with that too. The next thing is decisive leadership. So you're, in a relationship, sometimes you'll ask for input, and you can have input, or sometimes you're not going to ask for input. But regardless, it's when you hear these things, is just landing on a final choice. And again, it's with that word is final thing. You burn the ships. There's no going back. There's no hemming and hawing. And not only in what you've chosen to do, but the emotions behind it. The emotions are just as committed. There's no internal hand wringing over oh my gosh, I really hope I made the right decision. There's none of that. Okay. Because that again goes into self-doubt. Doubt is the mind killer. Okay. Well, fear is the mind killer, but doubt and fear are close cousins. Another thing you're going to want to have is composure. So having composure, again, signifies being able to stand on your square. You're never going to spiral with her moods, okay? Because women, if you're watching today's show with Miles and Jay and Zagan, pardon me. If you're watching with us today, I mentioned that the minds of women are like oobleck. And oobleck, if you're not familiar, is this, it's a Newtonian solid. And it's like a 1-to-1 ratio of, what is it? Cornstarch of water. And you put this in a Ziploc bag after mixing it up. And if you hold it in your hands, the baggie, it just turns to goo. And the moment you apply pressure with it with your fist, it firms up and becomes rock hard. Okay, it's a really, really cool substance. And women's minds are like oobleck. When they are completely relaxed, they can ooze and go in all different types of directions. Okay, you never want to follow that. You don't want to follow her oozing out all over the place. And so many of you guys do this. A lot of my clients do this when they're first learning how to control themselves. So it's really, really important, detrimental, that you do not follow her emotional roller coaster. You don't follow her frame, right? Which tends to be all over the place. Okay. Because if you spiral, then she'll eventually notice that. She'll eventually notice that you are volatile, that you shapeshift. And things that are consistent don't shapeshift. A mountain does not shapeshift. Okay. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it takes what, millions of years? Like, come on. So you can't shapeshift. You can't shift at all. Okay. You can't shift with your decisions. Like being indecisive or making a decision on one thing and then a little bit later go, oh, you know what? On second thought, okay, just choose the damn thing and stick with it. Okay. Let the cards fall where they may. And so this kind of gives her, like, by way of contrast, a bit of, well, a mixture of feelings, because, well, she's a woman, so you'd expect her to have a mixture of feelings. But in that mixture is a combination of not liking that, okay, because the presence of stillness only amplifies it becomes apparent, and it amplifies her not stillness. Okay, her erraticness, her volatility, her ability to flow and change and not really remain very constant. All right, that becomes apparent. Okay, and this might make her uncomfortable, or even angry, or jealous, or whatever. There might be some kind of reaction. On the other hand, it can also produce sensations of gratitude, that there's someone next to her that she likes, that she's attracted to, maybe that she loves, that is not like her at all, that is still and stable, that she can lean on and count on and rely on. And this is why you don't want to follow her spirals. You don't ever want to spiral with her moods. And you also want to maintain your composure when it comes to your emotional control, in the sense that you don't want to get too angry and you don't want to over explain shit, right? Over explaining weakens authority. I was watching, there was this great scene. Oh shit, what fucking show was that? Where it was like these people and they work for this this corporation, and they work underground. And when they take the elevator down, it was like an Apple original or something like that, and they go underground and their mind shuts off and they're another persona, but they're still them. And they work all day, work on these weird fucking computers, and then they go back up the elevator and they switch back to their other minds, like their regular mind, and they have no recollection of what they did all day. And the title of it was like a double entendre. I can't remember what that is, but if someone remembers, let me know. But in that, there was this scene with this guy, one of the executives. He was like a manager or something like that. He had some sort of emotional reaction to something. And this guy's a very stoic person under normal circumstances. And he's talking to himself in the mirror. And he said, he was also very eloquent. He had a fantastic vocabulary. And he was talking to himself, and it wasn't good enough. And he was basically saying, like, you have to stop these childish ways, right? And he's like, you have to stop these ways and grow up. And then he just started saying, grow up. And he's like yelling at himself in the mirror, grow up. And he just kept simplifying and simplifying, until he got to just the word grow. And he was just very intensely talking to himself and just saying, grow, over and over and over. Right? And I say that as an example of this over explaining. There's not, like, when you have conviction in your decisions and you are settled in what it is you want and what you need to say and all that shit, okay? There's conviction. You don't need to over explain. The over explaining just shows that you're afraid that it's gonna not land well. And so you're trying to truss it up with all sorts of words to make it sound better so that it lands better. This, my friends, is bullshit. This is a waste of time and energy, and it just shows that you're weak. You don't trust yourself. You're afraid. Just say what simply needs to be said without over-explaining. So another foundation here is standards. So having discipline around the things in your life, like your sleep schedule, your fitness, your finances, other areas of your life like friendships, time management, entertainment, right? You command yourself first. You don't want to sit around and just wonder, like, well, what do I do with myself? Right? You should be utilizing your time and utilizing it well. Like, I think this falls on deaf ears when it comes to young men. And it starts to make a little bit more sense by the time you hit like 35, 40, and you're like, oh shit. Because the realization that time is slipping through your fingers, it becomes very, very real. And time, as you get, you scale it back in time, younger and younger and younger, time becomes more vague. It's like a vague concept. Like when you're a kid, remember, like summer vacation just felt like it lasted forever. And now summer, it just goes by in a blink. Like shit, it's already August. It's already the middle of August. Pretty soon it's going to be Halloween. Yep. So, so yeah, have standards. Command yourself first. Get your shit in order. Don't be lazy. All right. Now, this doesn't mean go crazy. We all don't have to be fucking David Goggins, okay? But get your shit together. Like, like when you're just lounging around, okay, doing nothing, and you've got other shit that you need to get done, or things that you've been wanting to get started, but you keep putting it off and putting it off. That's a sign. Just listen to that voice and do those things, okay? Create a schedule to get them done. All right, then the last foundational thing is calibration. Okay, so this is leading without micromanaging, right? She must feel safer, not suffocated. Okay, so calibration is the art of feeling, of sensing. Let me say that. It's the art of sensing. That's how things calibrate. Is you're taking a little bit of information from over here and over here and over here, and fine tuning things until they are aligned. Okay, aligned within yourself, and as well as like how you're leading. All right, because she might like veer off a little bit. Okay, like if your correction goes too far out of those bounds, out of alignment, right? So let me give you an example. Like you were supposed to talk at a certain time, okay? And let's say she forgets. She was supposed to, be available for a call or call you at 7 p.m. And she doesn't even send you a message, like a text message until 10. And she's like, hey. And you're like, wait a second, there was a scheduled phone call, right? And you take that upon yourself to say, all right, you know what? Because of this bullshit, you're going to get punished. And I'm not going to talk to you for 3 weeks. Like that is not being calibrated. That's coming in with like a level 2 infraction and dealing with it as if it was a level 10. Okay. So that's being uncalibrated. Things have to be aligned with how you're leading. But you also don't want to micromanage so many little details. Okay, there's this balance between the macro and the micro, and you don't want to get caught up too much in either place. All right, and I know some DOMs that are very meticulous and they micromanage too much. And see, the thing is that micromanaging everything costs time. And so the more micromanaging you get, it causes you to use more and more time because you're looking at more and more details. And the thing is that details can always be finer. You can always get a finer detail. There's 600 grit sandpaper, there's 800, there's 1,000, there's 1,200, there's 1,500, there's 2,000, there's 3,000. Like you can get really fucking fine, right? They can get a buffing compounds, polishing compounds, and it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Okay. So, and then this just uses time. So you have to have a balance between the micro and the macro. So let's break into this other section, which is psychological levers. All right. Levers that inspire submission. Okay, so all of these things inspire submission, but you need to have the foundational stuff first. Okay, but it also helps to know, understand, and utilize psychological levers. Okay, so a lot of guys they think, especially when they hear domination, that they need to be rough, that they need to be, I don't know how to describe it. Not necessarily rough, but they have to be like forceful, okay? It imply threat to her. And this isn't the way, okay? You don't want to move towards fear of pain, okay? Fear of being injured or something terrible happening, all right? Because when you've got someone, especially if they're like submissive adjacent or submissive, that fear is actually going to cause them to shrink up. Okay, it's not going to cause them to open up and blossom. Okay, and remove their layers and become closer to be of operating straight from their core. Okay, versus the layers of identity that they put on top of that. So, because like the goal really is to be in such a way, and using like certain techniques is to have her remove these layers and open up so that she's more readily operating from her core without so many layers on top. And I don't know if it's possible to have just the core and no layers. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Okay. But the point is that fear makes the layers tighten up and grab more and put on. That's what fear does. So we can't have fear coming in as a man, right? Like creating fear. Now, there is a type of fear that you can, and I think that you should have. And this is dependent on whether she looks up to you or not. And this is the fear of disappointment. All right. Her deepest fear should be losing not just you, but losing your approval, not facing your wrath. Okay. Because it's one thing to like cause harm. It's like, guys think like, oh man, I'm going to punish my girl, bend her over, take off my belt and just tan the hell out of her ass. Okay. The thing is that those bruises, those red streaks, okay, those tears, they'll go away. They'll recover and they'll just move on. Okay. Like the pain that, I mean, moving on. But losing your approval, those don't exactly disappear so quickly. Those bruises do not vanish so easily. They can't be managed with some, taking ibuprofen or some topical painkiller. All right. And you should have a topical painkiller. Get yourself a jar of arnica cream on Amazon. This is really good for post-spanking aftercare if you do that sort of thing. Some girls like their bruises. Some guys like their bruises. So I like to see the bruises, but if they're too deep, it's good to use some arnica. Anyways, those bruises heal, but the bruises on her heart that come from losing your approval, they last much, much longer. They can last years if it's like she really looked up to you and something happened and you had to end the relationship. She'll remember that shit forever. It'll be burned into her mind. Now, of course, that comes with a caveat that she has a high level of respect and reverence for you from the beginning. Okay? Like that's like you can't have this fear of disappointments without that. All right? So just know that. No, there's always a silver lining, because if you're already in a situation and she has no fear of disappointing you, that's great, in the sense that now you know that she doesn't have a high level of respect and reverence for you, and that you should just move on. Right? There's lessons everywhere. All right, so another lever. Okay, we got like moving away from fear, the fear of disappointment, and then there's containment. Okay, so this goes along with your frame, so to speak, but it's also like what you can do. And this also has to do with like not following her emotional spirals. right? By doing these sort of things or by not doing these sort of things, this helps grow your container. All right. And I was on the show earlier today, and I said that the container, the pitcher, say imagine like a water pitcher, doesn't ask the water what shape it should take, which means it has confidence in its shape. It has confidence in what it is. The pitcher is not going to doubt itself. It just is. And you need to be the same way. There can't be any doubt in your ability to be grounded. And if she's coming to you with sadness or anger or fear, or even joy or her own arousal or anything like that, she can put that in your vessel and you're not going to change. It's not going to affect you. She can bring it and it's just something that's happening. It's not going to affect your, the integrity of your container. It shouldn't. Just like water is not going to affect the integrity of a glass pitcher, no matter how long the water stays in there. Okay? And what this does, it's a form of manipulation. And by manipulation, I mean like in the same way that a sculptor manipulates clay or stone. It's a form of manipulation that's like, I don't know, through the back door. Pause. Is through the back door instead of the front door, right? Sort of like the fear of disappointment and that sort of stuff. That's more the front end. All right. The containment, that is more back end, right? Because it's sort of like quiet encouragement saying, you can be yourself here. You can let loose. You can let go of yourselves, of the selves that you think are yourselves. You can let them go. You can loosen your grip. You can relax. You can breathe. You can be a little bit more free. Okay. That's what the container says. Right. Now, of course, that's not going to accept poor behavior, rash behavior, rude behavior, disrespectful behavior. All right. It doesn't mean to do that because you still have to lead and you still have standards. You still have rules. Right. The container still has these things. It just means the container just means that you're not going to be affected by it. Sort of in the same way if you had a pitcher made out of paper mache that stands just fine on its own, but you pour water into it and the whole thing just melts eventually. Okay. You want to be the glass pitcher or the steel pitcher. All right. So another one of these levers is the admiration anchor. All right. So authority grows when she admires and not just obeys. And I've talked about this before when it comes to submission. Anyone can do obedience, okay? Because obedience is a verb, all right? It's an action thing, okay? To obey, and anyone can do it, from the most fearful, feeble person all the way up to the most competent, confident person, okay, or the most sovereign person. They all have the at least the capacity to obey, to follow a command. Now, that doesn't make any of them, like in that wide spectrum of people, any of them a submissive, okay? Because submission is a state. It's a state of being, not any specific action, okay? Not like the girl, on her knees in the maid's outfit. That's just obedience, doing what you want, okay? But that's not submission. Submission comes from the spine. It comes from the heart. It comes from the marrow in her bones. All right? That's where it comes from. And it's inspired to come out through your leadership and guidance, but also her admiration of you. And the admiration does not come about through your accolades or your position in society or how much money you have in the bank. None of those things inspire true admiration. Okay, sure, she might admire those things about you and go, wow, look cool, like my guy does this, my guy has this, I'm so proud of him, like, or look what I get because I'm with a guy like him. Sure, that's a bit of admiration, or kind of looks like admiration, but it's not true admiration. True admiration is something, again, that comes from within. It's inspired. Okay, and inspiration might start with something you see or hear, but that sight or sound generates something inside, and that's what causes you to then take further action. And so your presence of how you are, your identity, and all the foundational aspects, okay, these things are what is sort of like the sight and the sound, which causes that thing inside to then create admiration. I hope that makes sense. So it's nothing that you have, it's something that you are that creates admiration. And then that becomes an anchor for your authority. This is what allows you to then take that energy that you're using in the bedroom and walk it out the bedroom, and being able to say these things with confidence, because you've inspired the feeling of, oh my gosh, like, that's my fucking guy. I really hope that he doesn't dismiss me. I really hope I don't disappoint him. And that's the feeling that, interestingly, like, that's the feeling that they want. Right? Because we all know that women love drama, right? They love drama. And often in these spaces where men talk about shit, they'll say, well, if she doesn't have any drama, she'll create drama. Like, she'll start picking a fight out of thin air about nothing. Okay? And yeah, that's true. That does happen. I've experienced it myself. The thing is that the desire for this is never going to go away. But what can change is what feeds that desire. And the drama inside her that comes from the fear of disappointing you, or the fear of you tiring of her, those things create an internal drama that's just as potent, if not even more potent, than anything that she could possibly create. Because what these do is it drives her deeper into her submission, the state of submission. I know you guys would love that, but it all starts with you, whether it can manifest or not. Okay, so we're kind of coming out of the deeper internal shit and coming out into something more practical. Okay, so there's conditioning tools, and people think that's just crazy. I mention this a lot, like how crazy people think using conditioning tools is. But if you've played a sport where there's a coach, there's been conditioning tools used on you. If you've gone to school in any capacity, conditioning tools have been used on you. If you've been in the military, most certainly there are conditioning tools used on you. If in multiple areas of society, in like when you're a grown-up, there's tons of conditioning tools to change your behavior to the way society wants you to behave, which is basically a well-adjusted, law-abiding citizen. That's basically it. So there's conditioning tools everywhere. But the second you start implementing them into relationships, people think you're crazy. You're a narcissist, right? It's like, hello, everybody is narcissistic. Get over yourself. So forget all those people and listen to me. You need to use conditioning tools. You need to implement them. So One of them, you probably heard of all these, but positive reinforcement. So, positive reinforcement is the immediate approval for desired behavior. That's it. Positive reinforcement. So, this can be praise, this can be touch, this can be eye contact, um, this can be, sometimes. Now, this comes down to knowing your girl, all right, and knowing what she likes, but using that knowledge to reinforce certain things. Okay, and this could be in the forms of a gift, in the form of an activity or something like that. But it has to be something that really moves her emotionally, right? Which is why positive reinforcement should mostly be verbal. There should be praise, recognition, acknowledgement, with sometimes touch and eye contact. Okay, negative reinforcement is another one, which I'm sure you've heard of. Negative reinforcement, often confused with punishment. Negative reinforcement means relief of pressure when she corrects herself. Okay, it's taking away a stimulus. So a good example is, I've got a headache. If I take ibuprofen or Tylenol or acetaminophen, it's going to remove the headache. That's negative reinforcement. Okay. So it's relief of pressure when she corrects herself. This is absolutely important to have the positive and negative reinforcements. The next one here is punishments. All right. Now, I'm sure you all know what that is. And let me just see here 1 second. Yeah, I was correct. So negative reinforcement is the concept in behavioral psychology where a behavior is strengthened by the removal of an adverse stimulus. Okay, so yeah, it's negative reinforcement introduced to decrease a behavior. All right. Let's go back to where I was. Okay. If you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat. If you're just here to chill and listen, that's cool too. All right, so punishments. Okay, punishments shouldn't happen often. Okay, because the more frequent they are, it does two things. One, it shows you're not a very good leader. You're missing something. If you're having to punish someone constantly, you're not getting through to their behavior being put in the direction that you want it to go. What was that? Hold on just 1 second, please. Okay, whatever. All right, so getting back here. So punishments need to be rare. And that's like I said, it's a signal that you're not leading very well. There's something wrong with your influence and your leadership. All right. Uh, like when there's a classroom and for a certain subject, let's say like, American history, and there's one student who just keeps just failing. The problem isn't the student, right? The teacher is lacking a certain something, a lack of like understanding of how to get through to that particular student. Okay, because people learn in different ways. Everybody has their own way of learning things. And so you can't just like use only a hammer and think that you can fix all situations. A hammer is only good for driving nails and removing nails. That's why tools designed for specific purposes. So each student has to learn in their own unique way, and you got to get into their head to figure out how to really get in there with the information to cause change, to cause learning, all right, to cause opening up, or to cause bringing down of layers. There's a lot of different things. So You don't want to punish often because the it just shows you're lacking. The other reason why you don't want to punish often is that it will be expected, and either that will cause fear or it will cause complacency, right? Like, oh, here it comes again, getting another punishment, and it lacks the emotional impact that it's supposed to have. That's why it must be rare. Either that, like I said, you cause fear, and they just start walking on eggshells, and they're clamming up. They're tightening up, and they're not being expressive. They're not being free. They're not being relaxed. They're not operating from their core. The woman then she becomes tighter and shrinks in and starts looking over her shoulder all the time because she's so afraid that if she does one little thing wrong, she's going to get punished for it. And now you've got this less expressive little mouse. And then knowing the guy who does this sort of thing, he's going to get upset at her for being that way too. Why aren't you fucking relaxed? I told you to fucking relax. Like, that's not going to get them to relax. Okay? So that's why you don't want to punish often. Okay? But when you do punish, it needs to be calm with the spirit of inevitability. Like, there's no discussion about it. It's either a short lecture joining it, or it just happens. And there's a brief explanation. Brief. Remember, we were talking about not talking too much or over explaining. You give a brief explanation of why this is happening and how long it's going to last, and then that's it. And then once it's done, the issue is done. There's no more bringing it up. I mean, unless it occurs again, and now you've got a whole other problem now because you have a recurring issue. Now, is that because of you or her? I would say probably a mixture of both. But anyways, punishment is another conditioning tool. Again, it's used rarely. You want to remain calm and treat it with the sense of it's an inevitable occurrence. All right, next one is rewards. Right, this is pretty easy. Goes without saying that privileges and pleasures unlocked by consistent obedience. Okay, by doing the thing that you ask them to do. All right, rewards don't really go along with submission. Right, to reward someone for being in a state, that's kind of weird. Okay, rewards go with obedience. They go with actions that are instructed to do, or like a new habit was being formed, or a new skill is being learned. This is where rewards come into place. It's a symbol that's saying, I recognize your efforts. I recognize the consistency that you've been taking on with this thing. And I'm now doing something about it to show you that it's important to me that you're doing this thing. And you should feel good about it. All right. And just like the punishments not coming in all the time because it can build complacency or fear, the rewards can't come in all the time either. You want them to be just as rare because you don't want them to build expectation. All right. So whereas that fear is sort of like an expectation, so is the hunger for rewards, which then becomes normal. It's no longer this mouth drooling hunger for it because they know it's just going to happen. They know that, just like having a dog, it's like if every day you get home from work, you've got like treats in your pocket, you go, here's a treat. And like, oh, yay, great. And you keep doing this a few days. After a while, they're going to be like, oh, shit, like every time Master comes home, I get a treat. And sure, like, yes, they're going to be happy that it happens, because it's just a dog. But it's the excitement. Like if you were to measure like probably the brain waves, the excitement isn't going to be quite as high as that first time, right? There's some normalcy and expectation. And then that thing can be taken for granted. And then maybe after a while, the dog's like, I know what he's got in his pocket. I'm really not all that interested in it anymore. Okay. But if you shake it up now with a pattern interrupt, and you have a different kind of treat. And you're like, whoa, what's this? Okay. So you don't want to be too consistent with rewards. Okay. Surely, if she's working on something, you should recognize it. Okay. But as far as like rewards go, actually doing something or buying something, these things must be rare and very purpose driven. And the other thing about rewards, like I said before, it's you need to know what she likes. Excuse me. So you need to know what she likes because you don't want it to just be a thing that's like, oh, that's nice, right? You need it to have some serious emotional impact. It's got to be something that she truly enjoys, truly desires, truly pines over, wishes that she could have this or wishes that she could do this. Just, I can't because of money, because of time, because of opportunity, whatever. And you made it happen as a reward. Okay. So this isn't simping. This is based not off of her, but off of action, by consistent action. Okay. So you're not really like fulfilling the ego so much as you're bringing recognition to a set of behaviors, not necessarily her. Hope that makes sense. So the synthesis of this, okay? So authority is demonstrated through your steadiness and discipline. You cannot be erratic. Your emotions can't be erratic. Your physical behavior cannot be erratic. Your mental direction cannot be erratic. Everything needs to be stable, decisive, grounded. Remember, the opposite of her, the opposite of the state of a woman. That's where your authority begins. It begins by having authority over yourself. And she will no doubt be able to pick up on this. And it will produce strong feelings. The next thing here is the fear of disappointment, right? This sharpens obedience more than just raw fear because it lasts longer. It's more penetrative, right? I remember I was reading Bruce Lee's autobiography, and he was telling a story about when he was developing Jeet Kune Do that he needed to test it. He needed to field test this stuff. And he'd really like to dance. He would go to like cha-cha clubs and shit. And he would pick fights with guys that were like 2-3 times as big as him. And he would dress like a super nerd. Like he put on glasses with a tape in the middle, like short sleeve button down that wasn't like, tailored, pants pulled up too high, shirt tucked in, maybe suspenders, pocket protector with actual pens in it. This is, he'd wear these things, and he wouldn't pick fights directly. He would just bumble about and, continuing with the perceived frame of who he is. That these guys would be like, oh my gosh, this tiny Chinaman, goofy nerd, clumsy guy, right? And so he wants to maintain that view of him, okay, because for a purpose. And then he would be bumbling and being very clumsy, and then make them want to fight him, okay? And versus picking a direct fight, like pushing somebody, like come on, and then just doing this and like let's take this outside, and eventually moves outside, and then through just hiding his techniques in his movements, right, where he's like just being clumsy, he ends up beating these guys' asses. And he said, it's one thing to break a man's bones. It's a whole other thing to break a man's spirit. Because the bones heal. Bones will heal, bruises heal, cuts heal, okay? Even organ damage heals. But you break a man's spirit, like by getting your ass kicked by a dude who's like 1/3 your weight, half your height, a total nerd, right? The complete opposite of you. and he wipes the fucking floor with you, and you're sitting there in the hospital going, how the fuck did that happen? How did that happen? And just the spirit just got like one of its legs cut off. It's going to take years and years and years for that leg to grow back. So this is why the fear of disappointment is stronger than raw fear. This is why it's super important to have her in the state where she is looking up to you, where she reveres your presence, where she highly, not just respects you, but highly respects you as a man. And not just like a man, but as you. Super important. If it's not there, if there's resistance to that, don't even fucking bother. It's not worth your time. And there's always a lesson. Why couldn't she? Now, maybe she has a massive host of trust issues. Cool. Some people do have that. All right. And you could be the most perfect, flawless man on the planet, and you would still distrust him, all right, or distrust you. So, yeah, if they've got baggage, it's going to be really hard for them to have that respect, because part of having respect for someone to that degree requires letting go and trusting them. Okay. And if they have very high trust problems, it's going to be pretty hard. Okay. But if that's not there, then really it just falls on your shoulders. You are the reason why she doesn't respect you, why she doesn't revere you, why she doesn't trust you as much as she could. So the next thing in the synthesis here is the reinforcement cycles. They shape behavior into instinct. So by using the cycles of reinforcement, positive, the negative, punishments, rewards, intermittent reinforcement. Oh, I forgot to mention that one. So that's mixing certainty and unpredictability. So it keeps their efforts sharp and desires alive. And this is like the psychology behind slot machines. Like, you can win, and you can win big, but then you can also lose and get nothing, or come really close to winning, right? And the pattern is just random. So it just keeps you there and keeps you there and keeps you there. That's intermittent reinforcement. Okay. So you need to use intermittent reinforcement or break up your patterns. We talked about this earlier today as well, right? On the Manhood as a Skill Set show. It's, if you have a pattern of doing things that she's, privy to, you stop doing that thing or one of those things just to interrupt the pattern of perception. That too is intermittent reinforcement. Okay. So the reinforcement cycles, this is really important. Okay. Because this is what starts shaping her instinct around the way you move, the way you think, the way you speak. And then the next one here is containment, right? Like I mentioned before, this gives her safety to rest inside your authority. That's what the containment is for. It's to say, you, and like all of you, not just the parts that I find cute and sexy and fun and pleasant, all of it, your shadow, your doubts, your fears, your anxieties, your anger, your rage, all of that stuff, your pain, your shame, your guilt, all of it can be contained. It's not going to do shit to my container. Nothing. Because it's made out of fucking adamantium. It's a flawless, polished adamantium. Nothing that she has inside her can affect it. Nothing. And this leads to, when she can realize this, when she can feel this, maybe not like, rationally realize this, like, oh, hey, he seems unaffected by all my bullshit. Okay. All of my pain and scars and my fears and guilt and whatever. It just doesn't affect him. Wow, that's amazing. Like, that's not really going to happen. It's more of an emotional thing. It's an emotional shift that occurs due to your container. And this is what allows her to feel safe and start letting loose. Then when she lets loose, she loosens the grip on her identity and then starts assuming the shape of the container, which is why your container must be very solid and very consistent. All right, and then I mentioned before intermittency. Okay, intermittency prevents complacency and keeps her striving. We as humans are extremely adaptive creatures. Okay, or if we weren't, we wouldn't be here anymore. We would have died out. And so therefore, it's really important to bring intermittency into your situations, into your relationships, because that's what keeps things cruising. Okay, because these are the pattern interrupts. It provides a sense of uncertainty, and it's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes for some guys, because all you hear is like, be consistent, right? Have consistency. Now, yes, you should, as an overarching theme, okay, for like your core, your values, your principles, your codes, the things that really define you, all of that should absolutely be consistent. But when it comes to the things that are happening in the relationship, that are happening on your program, yes, you should be able to shift things in and out periodically, not in any pattern. Just to have a pattern interrupt is really important, because that's going to make her stop and screech to all and scratch her head and go, wait a second, like, wait, this is out of the norm. This is out of the ordinary. I'm glad that there's these like hydration pouches. It makes me drink so much fucking water. I love them. This one's blueberry lemonade, totally sugar free, but it flavors in. Oh, something I discovered today. So yeah, that's my list. All right. So if you want to go back through it, take some notes to kind of like streamline what I'm saying, because I know I can kind of expand a little too much, ramble a little bit. So just go back, take some shorthand notes. And this is like really like how you bring things out of the bedroom. Now, the question is like, well, why would you want to bring things out of the bedroom? Okay. And the answer is cohesiveness, because it feels good in the bedroom to have those polarizing positions between man and woman. It feels amazing. Like if you've experienced this before, then you know. And you're like, dang, I want to feel this everywhere. I want this to be the state of how we operate all the time. That's a good question, a good place to start. And to say like, well, first, like, why do I want this? And what good would it produce? Like, what's the point? What would be the point of doing this? And what it does is it brings out the best in people. And like having a polarized relationship where there are very strict demarcations of who is where and who does what, by what definition, it really does bring out the best in them, if you do it right. Okay. Of course, there's going to be a lot of women who say, well, that sounds tyrannical, that sounds controlling, and they've just never been in a position to let go that much. Seriously. They really haven't. And I know this because men, by percentage, are very few. It's literally like finding a needle in a haystack. There are tons and tons and tons of males in the world. And there's very few men. And that's just the nature of the universe. That we cannot be many. It would fuck up the flow of things. It would absolutely fuck up the flow of things. Now, that doesn't mean that any of the males cannot change and become men, but who's really going to do the work? Who's going to really bust their own mind to get to where they need to be so that they can really, truly consider themselves a man? Probably a very small percentage. I mean, the males, they have trouble getting up at the same time every day. And you can tell because they're like, oh, great, it's Saturday. I don't have to wake up at 6 anymore. And they sleep until 10, 11, 12. It's like, who the fuck are you? It's like, do you just kind of go throughout your week just so you can get to the end to do what you want to do and sleep and be lazy? It's like, oh, I get a break from being, a grown-up and I can just relax. This is not the way. Either you're on point or you're not. That's how it works. Either you're on point or you're not. But this is all part of it. This is all part of laying the groundwork for having authority outside the bedroom. And I mentioned early on, one of the easiest things to start doing is to start giving commands outside the bedroom. And they don't have to be forceful. They don't have to have a title. They don't have to have any sort of oomph behind them. Just a simple thing that you could normally do yourself. You just tell her to do it and you don't ask. Do your best to not ask. So she's standing in the kitchen. You could say, hey, baby, could you pour me another cup of coffee? Right? Could you warm up my mug? Instead, you could give the command instead of asking. And you say, hey, baby, fill my coffee. That's it. It's just simple removal of can you. And it shifts, it creates a very strong shift. And if you can't handle the tension within yourself or the possible tension that might result in her, you might not be cut out for this. But I say, lean into the tension. Be comfortable with tension. It's very, very important to be comfortable with tension. So this is the beginnings. The simple shit, all that internal stuff that I mentioned, but the simple shit outside that you could do yourself that don't require really a command, you turn it into one, a directive. Okay? That's really the beginnings. Using your voice to get done what you want to get done. Hey, baby, can I have my hoodie, please? Baby, take my hoodie and give it to me. Go into the closet and grab my hoodie. You can even say, please. Get my hoodie out of the closet, please. Now that's just a command with, some civility. Or you can just say, open the closet and get my hoodie. Either way, you're giving a command. You can say please, or you cannot say please. It doesn't really matter. But simple stuff. Get used to just commanding instead of asking. And this is how you build your authority. Now, if you can't do that, okay, it reminds me of that clip that the guys play of Jill Scott, right? If you can tell me what to do, you can tell me what to do. If you can't tell me what to do, you can't tell me what to do. And if you can't tell her what to do, well, then it's a clear sign. There's lessons everywhere. Lessons are everywhere about you and what you can and what you can't do at this time. And if you can't tell her what to do, accept it. Don't fight it. Don't fight the truth of that. The truth is that you're not the man to give this woman commands. You cannot tell her what to do. Now, does that mean that you're defective? Maybe. Maybe it does. Or maybe you just can't tell her what to do. But some other girl, you could. But either way, you're in the wrong situation with that first chick. And you should just move on. Just move the fuck on. Forget it. Choose to step and don't look back. Don't ever, ever recycle women. Ever. I don't care if she is begging and pleading. Give her no mind. Zero. Doesn't matter. Okay? Keep moving forward. Like, yeah, but what if? No, forget the what ifs. Okay? What if you were an idiot and you recycled a woman? No. Just keep moving forward, make your choices, and then burn the fucking bridges. Burn the ships. Okay? And so this is what I want you to do. Like, if you've got a girlfriend or you're dating or whatever, experiment. Experiment with giving commands for things that you otherwise would ask for and see what happens. Roll with what happens. Feel the tension and lean into it. Don't be scared of it. Don't be afraid of tension, because you're telling her that I'm afraid of you. Right? When you're unable to face tension, you're telling the woman, I'm afraid of you. I can't handle you. I really want to fuck you. I want to use your holes. I want to feel good about myself because I've conquered your body. But don't bring any of your tension around me, because frankly, I can't handle it. I don't know what to do with it. And when you do, I feel like a deer in the headlights. I just freeze up and just stare. Fuck. She's giving me something I don't know what to do with. What do I do? Just, I don't know. Shut everything down. Pulls the main power. Okay. Whew. Sitting in the dark now. Okay. Is everything safe? Oh no, she's still outside. She's looking at us. Well, maybe if we just stay quiet long enough, she'll just like get angry and walk away. And then we can get back to playing Call of Duty. All right, cool. All right, be quiet. Let's wait. That's basically like what happens with most guys. Okay? That is not a container, right? Like that's operating with no container, not even a paper mache container. All right? That's no container. You just think like, fuck it. I like just pour the water in my hands and I'll just try to hold on to it. That's what that shit is. It's fucking pathetic. It's pathetic and it's weak that you can't handle a little girl. This little girl who just wants to feel safe. No, but when she gets upset. So she gets upset. Women are entitled, okay, newsflash, women are entitled to every single one of their emotions. All right? But you know what you're entitled to? Not getting swept up into them. And I don't know why guys do this, why they have such difficulty with this. Okay? Well, actually, I do know. I do know why. But guys have a lot of difficulty with this. Of their woman having some sort of reaction, some sort of emotional reaction that is unpleasant. And the guy gets swept up right into it. And he starts feeling bad. He starts doubting himself. He starts defending himself. He starts attacking her, right? That's not the way. And the reason why he is like that, why he fears the negative emotions, is because he is in the position of seeking her approval. He has the fear of her disappointment, which, of course, as we know on this channel, is likely fear of mom's disappointment. Being a disappointment in your mommy's eyes, or never measuring up to what you think that she wanted or what she directly said she wanted. But either way, you're afraid of not measuring up, of not mattering, of being dismissed. When really, and this is like a lot of males, might be most, I'm not sure, but it's a lot. You're in the position that the woman should be in. You've taken her seat. So if you've taken her seat, how the fuck is she going to sit in it? So if you've had that seat and there's only 2 seats in the room, where is she going to sit? That's right, on the throne. There's only two seats, the throne and the stool. You took the stool, so she has no choice but to take the throne. But you're not going to take the throne because you're scared. You're scared, well, what if she doesn't like it? What if she gets upset at me? What if I can't handle the responsibilities of leadership? I really just want her to bend over this stool so I can fuck her and feel good and not really worry about all these like dynamics and stuff. Okay. I might like deal with them, tolerate them, you know, kind of like do my best to get by with them just as long as I'm having sex with her consistently. And then it's worth it. Males are so funny. Like, males are such strange creatures. On a very simple level, you know, like women are a strange creature as well, but they're fairly more complex. But guys, you know, you males who operate like this are just so bizarre to me. Like, it truly makes me feel like an alien and wonder like what planet that I've landed on. And you hear it, you know, with the weekly call-ins on these weekly shows where dudes call in and you're like, holy fuck, how does somebody think this way? How does a man, like a grown man, behave like a girl? Fear of losing her approval, messing up in front of her. Then he has to deal. Then he's going to shut down. It just goes round and round it goes. So if you want to learn more about how to extend your authority outside the bedroom, give me a ring. Follow the links in the chat or the description of this video and sign up for a free consultation. We can talk about authority outside the bedroom. If you want to learn about authority in the bedroom, go to my website, thedominanceacademy.com, and pick up a copy of How to Be a Dominant Lover. It has great reviews. Not one person who's bought it has been disappointed, and especially the verbal part. The verbal part is by far some of the best I've ever seen. Of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I've not seen much that's comparable to this about using your voice in the bedroom. And then the, you know, if you're into eating pussy, right, you like that sort of thing, there's some really good techniques in there that are quite simple. There's only two, and you'll never need any other techniques ever. Okay. There's squirting instruction in there. I go into, you know, brief talk about like toys, different BDSM tools, all kinds of good stuff. Okay. And little like tips and things that you should have that you never probably considered before. All right. So check that book out if you want to learn how to be a dominant lover. And otherwise, just go to the website. There's some free downloads on the website. And I don't know, let's see the date here. I'd say like in another couple of weeks, maybe by like the end of this month, I'm going to have another book out. And that book is called The Sacred Path of Domination. Yes, The Sacred Path of Domination. And in that, we're going to be going over all of the, I guess like the spine of what it is to be a man, right? So, you know, we talk about like the wound of the modern man, discipline, desire, stepping onto the path, the weight of command, sharpening of, or the shaping of obedience, edge of fear and trust, the bonds of devotion, going beyond the bedroom. So I delve even deeper into extending authority in the bedroom. The weight of wearing the crown as king, and you know, and a number of other things. Okay, so it's more foundational about being a dominant. All right, then the following volume is going to be the more like active things. So they'll be like this this pair of books that work off of each other. All right. So that's what I'm working on. All right, guys. Thank you for sticking around and catching me on this live. And thank you for those who are checking me on the replays. I appreciate all of you. Please put the likes up. Please share these if you find any of my videos helpful. Recommend them to your friends. If you've got a guy friend who is really struggling, right? Struggling in his relationships, struggling in his marriage, put him in touch with me. All right. I would really appreciate that. And I think he would as well eventually. He'd be like, hey, man, thank you so much for introducing me to Justin. It fucking saved my relationship, saved myself. All right. Once again, thank you. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.